I like David Bailey's theory of that the magnet this time around is going to be the gold parity. So like $600,000 Bitcoin. That
You think
like,
so?
as we go up and we go, especially once we go above 100, it's like, okay, new territory. Like, what's next? It seems like the obvious target to lock on to. Of course, you can say $1 million, which is Samsung Mao's, his theory that's going to happen this time. But I like the 600K one. Because it kind of like, whoever is targeting for $1 million is obviously going to have to pass through 600,000 as well. And it's just such an important like psychological thing to be like, holy hell, this 6,000-year-old money, we just surpassed it in 15 years or 16 years, something like that.
Tuur Demeester is a Bitcoin analyst, independent investor, and commentator who has been recommending Bitcoin as a top-tier investment when it was still trading at $5 in January 2012. Tuur has witnessed several Bitcoin cycles, bull and bear markets, and all-time highs. Yet, the analyst says he has never been as bullish as he is on the leading cryptocurrency in 2024. During a recent interview with TFTC, Tuur explained that the 2021 bull market was abnormal, as Bitcoin didn't reach its full potential for that cycle. However, he is certain that the story will be quite different during this bull market. Tuur believes more sanity has returned to the world and the markets over the past 2 years. This, coupled with the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETFs, makes the analyst especially bullish about how high Bitcoin's price could go before the cycle ends. Tuur's base case for Bitcoin this cycle is a 10x increase, which at current prices would take the leading cryptocurrency to around $650,000 per coin. This prediction is based on Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey's analysis that Bitcoin will surpass gold's market cap this cycle. Tuur believes Bitcoin could go even higher this cycle, hitting Jan 3 CEO Samson Mo's $1 million price prediction. During his discussion with TFTC's Marty Bent, Tuur also talked about Bitcoin's role as a hedge against the eventual hyperinflation of the dollar. He believes the unprecedented demand for Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETFs is a sign that many investors, even former Bitcoin critics, are quickly coming to the same realization. Before this cycle ends, Tuur is predicting more rapid demand for Bitcoin, higher price gains, and even the onboarding of other big money investors like sovereign wealth funds and nation-states. As we bring you clips from the discussion, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Also, ensure you watch the video to the end so you don't miss important ETF updates from Bloomberg analyst Eric Balchunas. Thanks for your support and enjoy the video.
I think there was something that felt a bit off about the 2021 atmosphere rally. Like it was, and of course that's just one cycle ago, maybe, I don't know, back in 2017, that was another cycle, but definitely the 2021, something felt off and like everyone was like high, right? I mean, like everything was going crazy in terms of prices, real estate, equities, just everything, shit coins. And I think part of why I'm so bullish is that Bitcoin is going crazy. Not really. I mean, it's just the beginning, but I don't know. It's the way it should be, right? I mean, the finally investors after 14, 15 years are starting to understand that this thing is important. I want to throw this out there as a theory / prediction, and it might already be happening. We used to be assuming, because Bitcoin was so small, that Bitcoin responds to things that happen in the world. And so that, one of the things that, we've talked about and many people talk about is that Bitcoin is actually correlated, the cycle is actually correlated to the money supply, right? I mean, Bitcoiners are smart. They look at the actual monetary inflation and then they respond to that by buying. But I think what's going to start happening is that the tail is going to start wagging the dog, meaning the world markets are going to start looking at Bitcoin as an advance indicator that something big is starting to happen, because Bitcoin is now $1 trillion. It's going to go to $100 trillion. And so when the Bitcoin price rises up, because of, the laws of physics, communicating vessels, it means somewhere else a bubble is deflating. Something is going on elsewhere. And so to look at the Bitcoin price can be like an early indicator that something big is happening. And so it just occurred to me a few days ago, I really think people are going to start looking at Bitcoin as an early indicator. And specifically what this could mean now is money leaving the banking system just going to be parked in Bitcoin where it cannot be confiscated, because banks really are totally underfunded. They have extremely low reserve rates, and they don't offer Bitcoin directly. So it's not like, oh, you can store your Bitcoin with us and then we can fractionally reserve it and do all kinds of things with it, and still keep our business going. It's like, no, once you buy Bitcoin, even an ETF, like it's actually leaving the bank. And so yeah, I think that's something potentially really big that's happening. Peter Brandt just tweeted out accurately. He says crude oil is breaking out, stock markets are breaking out, obviously Bitcoin is breaking out. And so if everything's breaking out to the upside, it basically means the denominator is starting to get really starting to hurt, and that's the dollar. So the dollar weakening, I think that's what everybody expects. Biden wants to keep the market strong, but also inflation down. But at the same time, the as we all know, the governments have to keep on somewhat staying solvent, and so they need income. 20% of their budget is already being spent on just paying interest on their debt. So they're just going to have to print a lot more. The only question is when. When is the big next wave coming? And if you look at global M2, it's actually already trending up again. So we don't even have to wait for Powell or whoever to say like, yes, we're now officially lowering interest rates. Like, central banks around the world are already doing it.
The United States' massive and rapidly growing debt load is undoubtedly becoming a concern for even the biggest fiat proponents. Early last month, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the U.S. is on an unsustainable path with regard to its national debt. Last week, Bank of America investment strategist Michael Hartnett pointed out that the U.S. national debt is growing by $1 trillion every 100 days, a pattern that he warns will remain intact as the debt moves rapidly from $34 trillion to $35 trillion. According to data from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, the U.S. national debt reached $33 trillion on September 15, 2023, after hitting $32 trillion on June 15, 2023. Before we hit such an accelerated pace, the $1 trillion move from $31 trillion took about 8 months. Even more astonishing, it was just a little over 42 years ago today that the national debt crossed $1 trillion for the first time in history. This is why Bitcoin OGs like Tuur are certain that Bitcoin will continue to see and higher price increases in the coming years. In one of his recent posts on social media platform X, he wrote, "Bitcoin can still grow 100x from here relative to other assets. Also, remember that Bitcoin replacing fiat will be a tremendous boon for business calculation globally, sustainably fostering a much larger economic pie than most ever thought possible." Let's get back to his discussion with Marty Bent.
I've always been so hesitant to put price targets on a bull market because I feel that what is more certain, much more certain, and maybe what everything hinges on in a bull market is the length of time that we're talking about. I think the human brain is only capable of so much excitement for so long, and so much FOMO and so much adrenaline and everything else, that at some point after a certain while, on average, so there must be like, we need a science, like the bull market science or something, where people, like how insurance companies have actuarial tables where they can predict like how many people will die of a given population. Like we need that same thing where like, how long until people go crazy, in a bull market? Like there must be a point, and you can even maybe look back at the Bitcoin cycles and figure it out. But yeah, so I think that people's brains just get fried at some point, and then they just go nuts and they go in with leverage and they kind of mess it up for themselves. And because once you start levering up, then you push the price beyond what makes sense, and then even conservative people get confused and get caught up in that, and then they might take profit off the table, and then you actually have the correction and you go into a bear phase again. So anyway, long story short, to just say that, rather than predicting how high it's going to go, I want to say maybe there's, psychological fuel in the tank for like a 2-year, like real bull market. And then the fact that we're starting with such a big push right now in the beginning makes me very, very bullish. Yes. It reminds me of like 2013, where like people thought like, oh damn, like it's going, like we were to like $10 in 2012, and then we went to like 30, which was the previous all-time high, and then it just like zoomed past that, and we went to, I believe,
1400, right?
Actually, no, we went to 270 in the spring of 2013, and then it declined. It went down to $80, and people thought it was over, and then that, in a span of just a few months, we just went back on the horse, and by the end of the year 2013, we were at $1,200. So like from 10 to 1,200, 100x in 2 years' time. So the fact that we have so much going on right now, it makes me very bullish, and it makes me think like maybe this could be one of those two-legged, like there's going to be a big fake out, and then we just keep steaming forward. Yeah. And so all within a span of 2 years, we could hit $1 million. Like, it's weird to say, but it's almost like only a 10x from here, really.
Yeah,
600,000 is. I think it's important to really consider the idea of that 4-year cycle is going to be gone, because the money is really we're gonna live in a different world. Like so far we've been living in a world where you could actually make some money being invested in bonds, government bonds, and that's gone almost entirely, right? I mean, people are even buying bonds with negative interest rates and making money on it. Like, that's only a few years ago. So in a bond crash, because basically the fiat system, because you have monetary tokens that are being debased all the time, obviously there's no incentive to hold cash, and so they kind of developed this proof of stake system, which is like, oh, now you have yield, which is all that government bond stuff, and certain people have access to the yielding things, and so therefore, and the longer term you are invested in the system, the higher reward you might get. So buy those long dated bonds, like 100-year bonds, or even perpetual bonds, right? So with the rug being pulled and that whole edifice, it's so hard to predict like what would be the bottom, because that means you're putting on your dollar glasses and you're looking at the Bitcoin price. But like, what if the world starts throwing away their dollar glass and be like, this doesn't make sense to even think about, like the Argentine peso, like, let's speculate, like what would be the bottom of the next cycle for the Bitcoin price? It's like, I don't know, there's going to be so many dips. Like, we can speculate about the volatility along the way, like how percentage-wise, how big are the corrections going to be, but to have like a really lengthy bottoming periods, that assumes you have a stable currency to begin with. And so I'm not saying that the dollar is going into hyperinflation the next 2-3 years, but it's really something to keep in mind as a possibility.
As promised, it's time for some important Bitcoin ETFs. Yesterday, Bitcoin hit a record high of $68,770. According to data from CoinMarketCap, just $1,000 and a few $100 shy of its 2021 all-time high. Bitcoin's market capitalization also hit an unprecedented $1.35 trillion, higher than the 2021 peak of $1.28 trillion. The rapid price gains make it seem probable that we will hit new all-time highs before the halving event in April, which will be a first for Bitcoin. According to senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, yesterday was another massive trading day for the Bitcoin ETFs. In one of his posts about the ETF's activities on Monday, the Bloomberg analyst wrote, "Confirmed. Today was the second biggest volume day for the 10 at about $5.5 billion. BlackRock's IBIT alone did $2.4 billion of it, and has crossed $11 billion in AUM. Each of them is up over 30% in 6 days, which will probably help keep the flow ball rolling. I'm getting a bit of ARK Mania deja vu. In another post, Eric noted that Fidelity's FBTC had its biggest one-day haul, with $404.6 million in inflows. Bitwise also had its third best day, with $90.9 million, but IBIT's $420.1 million easily eclipsed both. Eric concluded the post by noting that the 10 ETFs will soon hit $50 billion in AUM, more than halfway to passing gold ETFs less than 2 months after they started trading. What are your thoughts on Tuur's $650,000 to $1 million prediction for Bitcoin and the latest updates on the Bitcoin ETFs? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.